guys, Rich here. Welcome back to the RC Informer YouTube channel, and in today's video I have a new release hot off the presses coming from BUDDYRC. This is the latest in their all-wood lineup from OMP. This is a 1400mm Super Decathlon, and it is a plug-and-play airplane. So comes with the motor, comes with the speed controller, comes with the servos. All you do is add your receiver and your battery, and you go. So I know very little about this airplane. I have flown their Challenger, which we did a video of. I'll put that in the upper right hand corner of the screen, and when we get the flights of this done, I'll have links for those too. If you click on the upper right hand corner of the screen, this will take you to it. So check these out at BUDDYRC. Again, I know very little about this other than what is on the front box, because at the time I'm making this video, it's actually not even on the website yet. So, and here we'll zoom on in so we can look at all the specifications of it, and you can see right here that it is an all-wood, really nice airplane. And you can see right here, it comes in two formats. I'm noticing here. This is the plug-and-play version. Again, includes the motor, the speed controller, servos, and then over here it looks like there's two color options, a red and a white, and then there's a white with red and blue trim, which is the one I'm going to be showing you here obviously today. So specs on it right down here. Again, my first time looking at it, 1400mm, length of 10,020, the flying weight there, motor and speed controller, both Sunny Sky brand. I'm not familiar with that. But it's a 28, 29, 20 kV and a 40 amp speed controller. Servos, there's 4 17-gram servos in it, so this is going to be a 4-channel airplane. Aileron, elevator, rudder, throttle, and probably no flaps, but we'll see when we get into it. And it looks like there's 2 battery options here, so you can use 3-cell, you know, a 2200 to 26 milliamp pack, probably even go a little bigger than that. And the prop looks like, what is that, a 1365 to 1370? I'm not sure if that's length or what. And then you can also use a 4-cell. I bet this is going to be hot on a 4S pack. So 2200 to 26, again, you can probably go 32 or more if you have to. But we'll check that out when we get in here. And a 1260 to 1265 prop. I'm assuming, again, that's probably the length of the prop or the size of the prop, probably not the pitch, but yeah, I'm really not sure. So OMP is making some really nice all-wood airplanes, and this is the latest and greatest. And I think, like I said, I think it's on the website right now, so I'll put those links below. You guys can check this out and get to it right away. And in the meantime, I'm going to crack this box and we're going to take a look at the inside. We're going to do a full parts breakdown of this, show you everything inside, and then we're going to get this whole thing assembled and hopefully set up in this video. But just as a first look, you can see all the parts in there. It looks like here's the landing gear and the rudder. Let me see if I can pry that out of here. Let me see if I can very carefully pull that out, and you can see what that looks like. Let me put that aside, and then let's take a look at our wings and our tail, which are all kind of taped in and nicely bagged there. You can see what that looks like. Again, I haven't had this out of the box, and I know nothing about it, guys, other than what I'm looking at now and what I'm seeing on the front of the box. So you guys are seeing it first time, just like I'm seeing it. And there's our fuselage in there. So what we'll do is we'll get all these out of here. Let me see if I can pull this out, and we'll take a quick look at the fuselage. We'll get that out of there. Hopefully that'll sit up there. And it looks like the rest of the stuff, that's the empty box. So we've got that all out of there. Let me put that aside. And it looks like we've got some wing struts. Looks like a wing spar. And it looks like we have a 12.6, and maybe that's what that is, 12.65. That might be the numbers on the box, but looks like it comes with a nice prop. It looks like plastic or carbon or something, and that's it. So let's get this first one out of here. Let's see if we can pull this out of the bag and take a quick look at the fuselage. Let me tear this open. Again, OMP, or you know, BUDDYRC is making some real nice. Ooh, this looks sweet. Ooh, this is nice. Let me pop this. Of course, that had to come off. Let's get this out of here. Very, very nice. Check this out. Let me see if I can zoom in and just kind of show everybody the quality of that. Very, very nice. I think that's, oh, it's magnetic. Ooh, beautiful. Look at the quality of that. Again, I'm just playing with this the first time, folks. Check that out. Look at all that. That may actually be carbon. Is that carbon fiber? It may be a sticker-like thing, but it may actually be carbon fiber. Not 100% sure, but look at the quality. Look at the quality of that. Look how nice the wood parts are laser cut, manufactured, and the inside of that thing. So super, super nice. Wow, I'm impressed with this. Looks like they've got bits of foam on this to protect some of the sharper parts. There's our prop and spinner adapter on there and everything. So, but overall, folks, it looks really, really nice. So anyway, let's get all these parts out individually. We'll take a look at everything closely and then we'll get this thing together. So super excited about this one. It looks nice. Let's get it out of the box. Let's get the fuselage to the side and we'll kind of break open each of these parts and kind of take a look at everything. I want some scissors because there's clearly a lot of bags to this thing. Obviously in here we've got our landing gear, we got our vertical stabilizer. It's different when you have a wood airplane because you're used to foam airplanes being encased in like a foam crate or whatever. And these are usually very different because you've got wood and you've got fiberglass pieces often with these. So let's get this landing gear out of here real fast here with the scissors. See if we can cut our way all through all these things and take a look. This, see how this comes out. These look like fiberglass or plastic wheel pants. It's kind of hard to tell. Quality looks real nice. The painting on it's fantastic. They did a real nice job with that. So this is probably the hardest part of this airplane. Is probably just getting it out of all the bags that it's in. But real nice landing gear, nice aluminum. Attaches with 3 screws here. So we'll get that aside. We'll get our vertical surface out of here. This has to be CA hinged in place, so you know we'll get this on there towards the construction of this thing. But really nice quality CA hinges are all in there already, and it looks like it's got this little foam protector pad. So when we're in the box, we're not damaging other parts with this thing sticking into it. So. Next up, we have a miscellaneous parts bag. I'm going to carefully kind of cut out of here. And let's see what we have here. It looks like we've got some rods and some small ball links, real nice. More ball links, a screw. It looks like we've got the cover for our landing gear. Probably goes underneath there. Kind of the holes sort of match the screw. Looks like we've got some servo doublers to put in there. Looks like flying wires. There's probably wires for the tail. Looks like there's some area there where there's some wires that you run for support. And this looks like some Velcro. Probably some Velcro for your batteries. You guys know me. I'm going to use shelf liner, of course. And we'll get those bags aside. A couple other items here. It looks like we've got wing struts and we've got spars here. So let's cut these out real fast. And we're going to pull all these out of here. This is a really nice carbon spar, and we'll look at this a little closer. It's very nicely machined, it looks like, very nicely finished off. And we've got wing struts. These wing struts appear to be, they might be a light gauge of aluminum, I'm not sure, but there's a hole at each end, so these are for the wings. It looks like there's probably 2 struts, you know, per wing that go up there. I think they're all about the, no, they're different lengths. So there's 2 are a little longer than the other, so probably one's for the front, one's for the back, because there's 2 wing struts per wing. We'll get that aside. Let me move this all over here, and let's take a look at, I'll put these over here, we'll slide all this over, and we'll look at the crux of all of the wings and everything. This is how your wings come again in the box. You can see how nice that is. I'm going to pull, I think these just come, yep, these all just come right out of here. One of the nice things is this is all boxed with cardboard, so you can recycle it, where foam, generally speaking, you can't. And let's see how this looks. It looks like between the 2 of these, there's an instruction manual, which looks super nice, colored and detailed, so pretty slick. We've got a nice BUDDYRC kind of sticker package to put on. And then we have our tail and our wing package. So let's do this. Let me put this one aside, and since this one's got both, let's cut this one open. Let me grab my scissors that I apparently have misplaced somewhere. And let me get into this. We'll open this up. I think I just spotted my scissors down here. Gravity tends to prevail sometimes when I'm doing this sort of thing. Look how nice this thing is. Sweet. Look at the detail. I mean, they did a really nice job with the covering. I also did notice on the bottom of the fuselage a little bit of wrinkling here, right along here, but that's okay because, you know, you use a heat gun just to heat that up with it and shrink it. So it's a shrink wrap, probably type material, I'm guessing. So look at that elevator. Look how nice that is. I'm going to pull all the little foam pieces off here. This is where those wires, those flying wires, are probably going to go, and it looks like they covered those plastic fittings. okay, to protect them from damaging the wing and so forth. That's why there's all these little things on here just to remove these. This is super nice. Let me pull this one off. It looks like all of these horns are either a carbon fiber or a fiberglass of some sort. So, you know, real nice quality. I love those little sort of strut receivers right there. Really, really nice. And then we'll get a wing out of here. Let me pry this tape off of here. And let's pull this out of here. Super nice. Actually, you know what I'm noticing too is this thing has lights. Check this out. It's got wingtip lights on it. Actually, it even has, and I'm finding this out as I look at it more and more, it's got a landing light up front. So we got a lighted model now too. So very, very cool. I'm dying to see if it's got a leading edge wing light. No, it doesn't look like it, but it's got the landing light on the front of the airplane. Super huge flight controls. Look at the covering job. They did such a nice job on this, and big surfaces. So it looks like all your surfaces are glued already with CA. The only one that is not is the vertical, because you got to get your elevator on, put your vertical in, and all of that. So let me peel these off of here very, very carefully, because you don't want to pull up your covering. Again, any wrinklings in the covering, it's pretty simple just to heat them up. But there's a nice strut. Look at that. That's a sort of an intermediate strut. That goes out probably, I'm guessing, like this. I'd have to look at the box. But the struts go on here. Those screw on. Screws are already in there for them. So you put back out the screws, probably put your struts in, and then they clip on right here and run to the fuselage. So real neat. Let me pull this off of here. I'm just peeling these off little by little. They just put some masking tape, it looks like, on here. Let me get this get this out of there. There's a servo installed in the wing already, ready to go. Another protector here. So it looks like the majority of this is unbagging and using your, removing all of these protections. But the top of that wing is super nice. I mean, whoever covered this did a super nice job. Interesting wingtip, kind of leading edge. It's not quite as rounded as you would think. It's an interesting sort of a little bit more of a rectangular type thing, but man, the fit and finish of this is super nice so far. So anyway, let's do this. Let's get all the parts laid out. We'll look at everything from a bird's eye view. So here's the layout of all the parts that came out of the box, just so we can kind of see everything in its entirety. Here's your starting at the top. Here's your main fuselage with the motor, speed controller, tail servos all installed, covered, ready to go. I removed the remaining foam protective areas there that were keeping all the other parts safe. You got 4 wing struts here. I believe they're aluminum. There's a main wing spar right there, kind of hard to see. Rudder, landing gear. We've got your Velcro for your battery if you're going to use it. And then also these additional, looks like additional servo trays if you want to use a different size servo. So I don't think we're going to be using those. Then we've got a couple parts bags here where we have some flying wires. We've got an extra screw, which is a single screw for something. I'm not sure what that's for yet. There's push rods with with ball links on them. And then the little landing gear cover, your horizontal stabilizer and elevator, our 2 wings and our prop. This thing is really beautifully painted. There's also a real nice, again, sticker package on this thing. So these are just kind of peel and stick with the Sunny Sky controller, BUDDYRC logos, OMP. And then it looks like, I don't know what this is called, EO3, I'm not sure, OE, I don't know what the name of the prop is, but that's the prop. So we'll stick those on there. And then the instruction manual, man, is something to write home about. This is impressive. They spelled decathlon wrong, probably just a Chinese translation issue there. And then here, we'll open this up. This is a beautiful instruction manual. I mean, look at the color of this thing, and it opens up to nice big panels so you can see all this, and it's all nice in color. And then one of my favorite things is I usually have notes for models as I'm going along it, and I usually need to I'm usually scribbling them on the front or something, but it's got a nice notepad on the back. So any notes you want to make on it are there, and you kind of run through this and see how all this thing, goes together. There's the whole parts layout, just like we're looking at here. Again, I think these are additional servo trays, probably for a different size servo. So I don't think we're using those, but I don't know, we'll see when we get into it. This has your landing gear attachment with your additional, your kind of landing gear cover. That's what that wood piece is there. And then it has gluing our tail on. So we're going to use, I think we're using some glue, but we'll check that out. I think that gets glued in place. And then this shows right here how our vertical horizontal stabilizer goes together. Again, our horizontal going in there and gluing it. So it does show CA in there. And then next page on there, pretty simple stuff. It shows probably, that might be hinging the rudder if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, using thin CA to hinge our rudder, getting our tail wheel assembled. We'll do all this here. And then getting our wing struts on, our wing spars on. Yeah, our wing struts and attaching all those. And there's our snap-on midway struts that are kind of right on the wing there that pop into place. Real nice manual. This is one of the nicer manuals I've seen in a while. Then you've got your sort of crimp connections right here, okay, and that's for your flying wires or your tail wires to kind of line up and give some structure to your vertical and horizontal stabilizer between the two. And they show you how to clamp all those on and everything. And yeah, it goes into some pretty good detail. There's your horn for either your elevator or rudder, and then it shows all your servo connections and your rods and everything. So all that stuff is already pre-installed. So super nice, nice instruction manual. Now that we've seen the layout and we've seen the instructions, let's talk about each of the individual parts before we get to the assembly. Okay, now that we're back to our regular camera, I want to give you guys a thorough review of all these parts, because the more and more I look at this, it's really impressive, the construction of this. It was really done with great precision. So I want to give you guys the detail on this, because it's one thing to see it kind of coming out of the box as I show it to you, but it's another to really see it up close and up front. You know, as you're actually looking at it. And I'm going to try and give you guys that detail that I actually see when I get this out of here. Another thing to note, there is a really nice aluminum spinner, folks, that comes with this, and I think it was attached to the nose of the airplane, and there's a 2mm nut in there. This was sort of floating around. I think when I took everything out, it sort of fell on the ground. So just make sure this is in there, you don't lose it, but I think it's a 2mm screw that's in there. It's a metric screw, and like I said, I think it was intended to be on the front of the airplane, but I think it came off in the box. But check this out. I want to show you guys the really kind of close-up sort of nitty-gritty detail and see how nice and precise this is. They did such a nice job. We got big cooling holes up front. We got a really nice landing light there. This is the aluminum, you know, spinner back plate, and then there's a front kind of washer for the prop. And then you've got your sort of prop nut that holds everything on, and then your spinner screws into there. It's all threaded. So we've got our motor in there installed. Again, tons and tons of cooling. I think it's a fiberglass cowling, if I'm not mistaken, but look at the covering, look at the detail they did on this thing. It has such a nice red and white stripe with the silver trim, okay, around each line. So I thought that was pretty impressive all the way around. We'll look at the underside of this. Nice tail wheel here with the arm and everything for steering. Nice metal arm here to hold the whole thing in place. And as we go along the tail here, you can see a really nice covering job they did with this. Now, I noticed a little flaw with mine. This is probably a one-off, okay, but you can see a little bit of cracked covering right here, and you can see that when you handle this out of the box, and this is why I'm showing you this, see when I lift this up, there's a space kind of between there. I think that's just because the wood grain broke there. So I'm going to put this back down and put some thin CA in there just to CA that back down in place, because this is where your elevator is going to go. And again, I think that's a one-off kind of flaw with that, and I think that's just because that's the way the wood grain goes. But our elevator is literally going to plug right in here, okay? And it's going to slide into place over there, and then we're going to glue this thing kind of in position. So just keep in mind when you get yours out of your box, until you glue this area together, it might be a little weak in here, okay, because you could possibly have a break there due to the wood grain. Not a big deal, but just keep that in mind. I usually get the weird ones that sometimes, you know, have like little issues, so I seem to get the odd one off. So, but anyway, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You're probably not going to have that problem with your airplane. Also, right up here, these are your little connectors for your wires that run down to your elevator and so forth. And those are really nicely installed. Like I said, I'm real impressed with this whole thing. Windows are all kind of, you know, these are just black. This one's tinted. And then you have really nice up front. Let me get in on this because I didn't really show that, but these are screwed in place, okay? So the cowling is screwed in. You can get to that real easy just with 4 screws, 2 on one side, 2 on the other side. And this thing is shiny, folks. I'm just impressed with the shine, the fit and finish. Again, a little buckling under here, but that's expected with covering. Just hit that with a heat gun at a distance and it'll tighten that right back up again. It's normal for coating. to form some wrinkles in transport, but this has actually minimal wrinkles, so not a big deal. You just got to heat it up with a gun, of course. So, and then right down here is your landing gear where it attaches, and the screws are already in there, and I love that because you don't have to search for a bunch of screws. You unscrew these, put your gear on, and then these are your strut screw areas, and the screws are already in there. So you undo those to put your struts on, and you're good to go. As we get around to the top side or to the side here, here's where your main wing spar is going to go in, and in fact, I'm just going to see how nicely that goes in. Yeah, it looks like that slides in. Super nice, strong, nice, sturdy, tight fit. Looks like our wires are going to go through here. This one I think is an anti-rotation pin where the wing is going to go in, and then this one here is where there's actually a nut, a plastic nut that you screw to hold your wing in place. So that's pretty nice how that is. They did a good job with that. And then the top, look at this top hatch. This is quality and precision right here. It's nice when they have a little aluminum kind of ball thing to grab, and it's magnetic. So it's a really nice top hatch they did with this thing. So very impressive, and that's covered, and it's got a nice magnet there and everything. So super, super cool. I'm just going to sort of put that down. And then our canopy, same deal here. Look at this thing. You get this thing off of here. It's all precision like we looked at before, laser cut. It's got rare earth magnets. It's got little pins on the front, okay, that are carbon fiber that plug into the front pins that you can see just right here and right here. And then you have this just really precise fit of this thing. And you see they got their laser inscribed Ohio model product. So I can get in on the detail for you guys. Really nice rare earth magnets. I think this is carbon fiber. I don't know if it's a sticker that's just a carbon fiber sticker, if it's carbon fiber. I don't know, but if it is, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice overall. Just the precision, the quality, the fit and finish. You see you have a nice battery strap in there. I like the fact they didn't put the Velcro there, so I can put my shelf liner in there and everything. And you got your battery connector. Your ESC is kind of down, kind of right underneath here, and it's actually strapped in with, and you can see way down in there, there's a zip tie there that's holding the speed controller in place. So, and in fact, I might be able to even get all the way down. You can see your motor mount up front there. That's kind of harder to see. So, but anyway, you can see the nice interior of this, all laser cut parts. Also note on the top hatch here, where your magnets attached to these, there's a spar tube, okay, receiver tube. So you won't interfere with anything if there's any wires, which there probably won't be, but your spar can go right through that. It's nice, and it won't pinch or kind of damage anything going in there. And then it looks like we've got right down, let me go right here, there's a light controller module for all your lights, I believe is what that is. So that just plugs into any spare channel in your receiver, or a Y harness. That might be switchable. The lights may be switchable on and off. Honestly, I don't know, so we'll mess with that. If they're just static lights, plug them into anything, or even a Y harness. So if you only have a 4-channel receiver, that's good. But if they're switchable, we'll plug it into a separate channel, and we'll be able to switch our lights on and off, I hope. Again, I don't know. We'll see when we mess with this. But nice tray down there where everything is all kind of set up. And then back in the back, I just wanted to cover this because I really didn't go into this detail, but there's our tail servos. I forgot to kind of go into that in detail. There's our servos. I'm not sure which way these go, but they've got very nice, looks like steel or metal ball links. Let me go right to there so you can see that ball link, and we'll flip it to this side so we can kind of see that ball link as well. They're very small, very tiny balls, but they look pretty solid, and it looks like they got an Allen head, you know, kind of screw at the top of it. So let me see if I can see. No, I think that goes the other way. Let me turn it that way. It looks like these are SG5 servos. It looks like OMP hobby servos. So super, super nice, folks. I got to tell you, I'm impressed with the construction of this thing. It's really, really very nice. It's very precise. So let me get the hatch back on. That goes on here. And that just fits right. I just love the way that the magnets hold that in place nicely. Our top hatch is going to go right on there. The magnets are going to hold it. So real precise, folks. Definitely got to hand it to the folks at OMP for, you know, making the quality of this thing just super, super nice. Let me see if that'll stay up there without falling. And then we're going to get into our wing panel. Check that out. This wing is cool. Let me zoom on in so we all can get kind of the full kind of detail of this thing and how nice the top and the bottom are. So Very, very cool. Lots of surface. I mean, look at the amount of surface and travel of that Decathlon. Maybe maybe it can even 3D this thing or something. We'll see. But it's already hinged. You always want to take a tug at these, kind of pull them. Make sure, inspect the hinge, look in there, make sure they put enough CA in there, and that, because sometimes it's been known with some of these wood models, they don't put enough CA in there, and you got to wick a little more in there, but you don't want that coming off while you're flying. They seem to be pretty tight, so real nice. I love the way that they put the screws in here, okay, for your wing struts, so you don't have to search for them. They're right there, and they just cover them with foam, so when it transports in the box, it doesn't damage anything. So, but unscrew those, and you know, we get our struts on there. Here's our servo horn with our ball link, our nice metal ball link on there, and we have our nice, it looks like it's either carbon fiber or fiberglass, okay, the horn attachment there. So very short rods on there, but that's all. You can see the glue actually right in there where they glued it in. Give those a tug too, make sure they're secure, okay, and we'll be good to go. Now, while I was pulling this apart and I was peeling like all that tape off, okay, I did pull off one of these stripes a bit, and I'll show you that. It's just like a heat shrink kind of coating. So I'll put that back down, just run a hot iron over that just to iron it and stick it back on, you know. So, but just be aware, you know, you can, when you're pulling that tape off, you can pull off covering, and covering adhesive kind of delaminates a little bit when the thing goes through shipping. So there may be areas you need to iron down. Again, it's normal for a balsa wood covered model. And then a wingtip light. Real impressive, folks. They did a great job here. Let me see if I can get this to focus. It looks like there's 3 lights on this airplane, one on each wingtip and 1 landing light up front. So probably high intensity LEDs, I'm guessing. And then here's our intermediate wing strut, where this pops on. Our wing struts, you know, are going to go from like right here inward, and then these will just snap onto it, which is pretty neat. And in fact, if you really wanted to secure that, you probably could wrap a tie wrap around that, okay, just to make it a little tougher. So I don't know if these are pure cosmetic or if they're actually structural, but we'll see. And then the wingtip, or the wing root, I should say, I got to tell you, the more I look at this, the detail, I mean, not the detail, but the precision of this. Let me get in on the wingtip. I wasn't going to talk about this, but let me go. They did such a nice job with the sanding of this and the rounding and the curvature, the compound curves of this wingtip. They did such a nice job on it. I mean, it really is impressive how nice they did. And then they covered it. So I don't think that this is painted. I think this is like a covering job. So they really did a good job stretching that covering around the wingtip. In fact, I'm not sure how they did that. That might be a plastic. Actually, it might even be a plastic part. Actually, you know what? I think it's plastic. I think that's why it's deceiving me, because it looks so good. It looks like it's such a nice match with the coating that it doesn't look any different. So I'm thinking that's actually a plastic wingtip. That's why it is. So they fooled me. They definitely fooled me with that, because it's a very close match that looks almost like they covered it. But actually, as I look at it on the camera, no, it's a darn close match. They did a really nice job. I'm just impressed. Nice job with the, you know, the covering with the different colors. And then the wing root. The wing root's awesome. Look at this thing. Like I said, I talk about this probably all day long. The precision job they did on the woodwork was just fantastic. And even this is not straight. See, there's a little bit of a cross-hatched area here, and then there's a little area here that curves in because it matches the shape of the fuselage. And in fact, what I can do is grab the fuselage and show you what I'm talking about. I mean, they really did a nice job, you know, to make this fit. Let me see if I can line that up so everybody can sort of see what that looks like. That's your lineup right there. So they actually made space for the rear part, for the curve or the bend in the fuselage, and then the front section here, they made some space. That's what that is. That's for the canopy. You see that little area? I'll put it right in the middle of the screen. That's so the canopy has some area to come on and off. So they really thought of that. Look how nice that is. I mean, they did a really, really just killer job with the precision of that. And I'm trying to get the fuselage back on this top shelf while I'm showing you this. Sorry about that. But super nice job. Again, that recessed area right here and our angled area to fit the fuselage. So anti-rotation pin here. Let me zoom in a little bit. There's our anti-rotation pin right here. And then here's our wire exits, and maybe those are supposed to come through this little notched area. That might be what that little notched area is for. I might pop that in there. And then here, this is our actual screw-on thing, or our screw that we kind of connect the wing with. So it's pretty neat how, let me see if I can undo that. It's just a finger-tight wing bolt is all it is. So, and that goes in there, and it looks like it goes into some metal threads in there. So it looks like they did a really nice job sort of getting that in there. And so you reach in through the top hatch to undo this thing, but look at the precision of that. Look how nice that is. And it looks like it is a flat bottom airfoil. It's thin, so this should produce some real good lift, and at the same time probably be kind of speedy because it's a thin wing. So we'll see how it does. It looks super, super nice. I definitely got to hand it to them that these are really nicely made wings. Last but not least, for the main parts of the airplane are the tail surfaces, and they did a really good job with this. This vertical, or this rudder, is the only piece that we're going to have to glue on with these CA hinges. It looks like they glued them in already, so I'm just going to kind of tug at them, make sure they're in there. And then this is going to slide onto the tail. We'll talk about that here in a second. Then we got our horizontal, which our horizontal, man, they did a nice job gluing this together. Again, you want to tug on this, okay, pull on these, make sure they got enough glue in there, so because you don't want to be flying around and have a tail come off, because sometimes they don't wick in enough CA, but it looks like they did a nice job on this. They did a nice tight, in fact, I'm going to zoom in. Let's get it zoomed in on this thing. Show you guys how nice this is. Check this out. Look at what a good job. Look at what a nice job they did with this. Again, you've got your upper, let me go right, I got the wrong side. You got your right connection here, right, your upper and your lower connector here where your wires are going to go. So essentially you've got your vertical kind of running through here, right? And then you're going to have a wire going up to the rudder, a wire going down, and a wire going this way to the tail wheel, and a wire going that way. So that diamond-shaped, wire we're going to have in there is going to give structure to this, because this is strong, but maybe not all that strong. So I think these do have some structure. I don't think they're just cosmetic. So having those wires, and it looks like here's the wires with the crimps and stuff. This actual, in fact, it looks like it is, yeah, just some wound up wire. And that's going to help support this thing. So, but they did a super, super nice job with this. If I hold it the right way, you guys can kind of see through the structure. And in fact, I'll even, let's do this. Let's get this going. I'll give you guys a little light through here so you can kind of see the structure of that. You can see through there the light as it passes through the little areas. But you can see it's all built up wood. They did a real nice job. It's having a harder time going through the red. But you can see all of the chambers of the wood in there and how the hollow areas and everything. So very, very cool, and a very, very nice construction job. Again, whoever's assembling these is doing a real nice job. The coating, they did a great job with the covering and the precisionness of it, I guess you could say. So again, we've got our horn right here, and we've got our ball link right there. So super job on that, and you can even see, like I said, it's got an Allen head, I think is what that is through there, so it's easy to get on and off if you have to. Again, tug on your horn. Make sure they glued it in enough. I can see the glue around the edge, so it does look like they did put enough in there, but you want to tug on all that stuff, and make sure it's good to go. So, and then this is going to go on, if I am not mistaken, let me see if I can pull the tail over here. This is going to end up getting glued in here, and I'm not sure if we remove some covering material. We might have to because of the way that this is designed. And it's a little tight here, so I might actually need to kind of sand that down. It looks like it's kind of tight. I'm going to take a hobby knife and carve away a little of this, but this is going to slide right in there, and that's typical with wood models. Sometimes you've got to trim a little bit. We'll slide that in there and glue it, and then once that's in place, we will take this, which I wonder if it's got the holes or the slots for it. I'm not sure if they did. Looks like they did do it. And this is how that's going to go in place. After the elevator is glued in place, this is going to go in just like that. You can see how nice that is. Then we're going to move it to one side, put some CA, let it flow, let it wick in there. That's what wick means, is to flow kind of in there. And then that's how our vertical is going to go on. So that's really the only part, we're going to glue, and then we're going to hook our linkage on right down here. But I got to admit, the fit, the finish, the detail, the quality of the building that they did on this thing is super, super nice. These tail components are super cool. Now, it's nice to actually have a tighter fitting part rather than a loose one, so very carefully I'm going to try to pull this off. Again, mine's a little weak because I got to throw a little CA in there to glue that on, and then I'll probably take a hobby knife, like I said, just trim a little bit here because it looks like there's some extra coating out there, and then this should slide on just fine, and then we'll glue it into place. For For the last of the little miscellaneous parts, we have a few bags. We got this little piece of wood. This is just the glue-on cover. I'll probably foam tack this on. Once you get the landing gear in place, okay, we're going to take this, and it's got holes for it already to make up for it. So we put that right over the landing gear slot, okay? So it leaves a gap there, and it actually covers up the slot that was left there. So it just kind of cleans it up a little bit. So that's kind of nice that they give you that. And then also, again, our flying wires with our little crimps. So I'm going to zoom in on all this stuff so y'all can see that. There's our flying wires, or for our tail wires, I should say, or wire strut, I guess you could call it, and the little crimps for it for the pliers. And then there's a single screw here, and I think that's for the tail wheel area for these wires to actually connect in the middle, okay, which would be, I think it's right under here, but we'll get to that. I think it's meant to go here somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure. And then we've got our rods. The rods on this plane they're thin looking, but they're tough, and they're little teeny tiny bowl links on there, and they're real nice. These two here for your ailerons, they're the same length, it looks like, at least I think. And then you've got one here that's longer, one here that's shorter, and this one here probably is for, one's for elevator and one's for rudder, because they're a different size, where these are the same probably for the ailerons. And then we've got, just like we looked at before, these are your wing struts. These connect down here at the bottom, they go up to the wing. There's two of them, and there is, again, two different lengths, okay? So two are longer, two are shorter, so we're going to split them up, two longer, two shorter, one's for one side, one's for the other. Probably the longer one's probably for the back, I'm not sure. But as we get this together, you know, we'll show you all that stuff. Again, a little bit of Velcro in the box, and then this landing gear. Let me give you a close-up. Very nice landing gear. High quality parts on this all the way around, of course. And you can see the zoom in there with the foam, with the aluminum. You can see how nice that is. They did a real nice job. You can see the quality of the wheels. These are foam wheels. These are a little hard, okay? They're hard foam. This will be really good on grass. Probably will bounce a little bit, okay, on pavement. So a spongier tire might be in order, okay, for pavement use. And this looks like the wheel could be a lot bigger. You notice that, you know, you could actually go more to this edge and actually go probably taller. So if you've got grass field where you might need bigger wheels or something, I think you could disassemble this with like these two screws here, maybe, I'm just guessing, and put a larger diameter wheel on here, okay, for grass ops, if you needed to, okay. I don't think I'm going to need to on my grass at my field, but we might have to. And then they painted this real nice star. Look at that. I'm not sure if these are, as I'm looking in here, I don't know if that's fiberglass or if these are plastic. They actually look like they're a very thin, lightweight fiberglass, actually. So really, really nice. So I'm impressed, folks. They did a really nice job with, you know, the construction of this, the fit and finish, and it's real nice. All the parts are here, kind of ready to go. One more thing. Let's open up the prop. This is a E003. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Probably saying it wrong. So, but there we go. That's the prop for it. I'm not familiar with that brand. It looks like it's a 1265E, so probably wouldn't have a hard time at all with taking this or putting a different, you know, brand prop on there. Like if you wanted to use something that was, you know, maybe like a an APC prop or something, you can probably put whatever you want on there. But let me look at the quality of this thing. Let's look at that. It is a plastic propeller, but the finish is nice. And in fact, look at this thing. This is cool. It actually has a flat, which is weird. It has a flat, let's see if I can get a leading edge. Look at that. So the detail on it's pretty neat. I mean, I don't know what that means exactly, but it has a cool flat finish to the leading edge, almost like if it's showing you that it's got a like a leading edge sheath on and stuff. I know wood props are like that. And then you could see that it's a 12. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it's a 12.65. Kind of hard to see. So, but anyway, we'll get this on there and we'll try it out. So, but that's it, folks. That does comprise all the parts for this thing. So, next up, let's get this thing together. Let's get all the parts, assemble it just sort of one at a time, and we'll get this thing together and out to the field. The first part for assembly on most airplanes like this is just getting the landing gear in place. Usually put it on a stand. I got mine on my Ernst stand. I'll put links below. You guys can check that out at Banana Hobby and so forth. One of the things I really like about the way they did this airplane is they already put the screws in there, so all you have to do without searching for them is just take them off of there. Now these thread into metal, so you're probably going to want to use a little bit of thread lock on these. Not too much, but you know, you are going to want to put a little bit on there because because they can back out and loosen up when you're mounting metal on metal. One thing to note, anytime you're using thread lock, you don't want to get it on plastic or nylon because it makes it brittle and it can crack and come apart. That's why you want to be real careful, preferably not using screws on things that are like, I just lost a washer there. You don't want to use thread lock on like Metal Gear servos on the threads too much, where it can get onto the nylon horn because it can make the horn fracture or get brittle, and then it comes apart. So be careful where you use thread lock. Only use it metal to metal, and anything anyway. So we're going to get that right in place, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of thread lock, and you can see here they show in the manual basically this sort of thing. I put a little bit of thread lock on a little piece of something here. Just a little piece of extra sticker trim, and just put a little dab on the end of it. That's really all you need, and I'll show you what that looks like. I just put a little tiny bit on the end of it. You don't need a lot because a lot of thread lock actually goes like a long way. So we'll put the first one on. I'll get this one right in the center. I'll reverse my screw just a little bit just to get the threads to line up, and that's usually kind of a really good way to do it. So I'll take my second screw right here, and they actually show this in the manual doing it the way. I usually just put a dab on somewhere like this, especially if you don't have a really good tube to sort of apply it. And just a little bit sort of on the end of the threads. Really here is all you sort of need. And then we'll get that one in place down here. Line that one up. And I get that one tightened up as well. That one's going a little tighter, but that'll make sure that, you know, your threads, you know, they all stay in place. You know, your screw doesn't back out from vibration, even though, you know, there's not a lot of vibration from, you know, electric models. So, but we'll put a little bit on there as well, just a tiny bit. And I'll put that aside. That should be good. And we'll line that one up too. So I want to get them fairly tight, but not ridiculously tight. I'm going to back it up a little bit so I don't cross thread this. This one's going in a little tight too, but it's going in there okay. So making sure all three of those are tight. And that should be about it for the three of these things. And then once that is in place, what I'm going to do is put I'm going to put on the little cover that they made. So there's a real nice cover you can see here where they have the holes all set up for it. So this thing should go on there and cover that real nice. And you have to have some way to secure that. What I like to use on stuff like that, of course, is foam tack. So what I'll do is I'll get some of this out of here, and typically what I'll do is, since it's going on to metal, because I want to be able to get this off, I don't want it to be permanent. There's probably several different ways, you know, that you could do this. You could probably even just tape this on, but if you want to use something like foam tack, this is probably not a bad way to do it. So I just put like 3 dabs of it on there, and then what I'm going to do is just take it and put it right on there. We'll see if that holds, and if not, I might tape that on. So, but typically what you want to do is get foam tack in place the way you see it, and then what I'm going to do is lift it back off. Okay, so it sort of forms those little strings on there, and I'll put it back on, I'll take it off, I'll put it on, take it off, that kind of thing, and then let it tack up for like a minute or two. See, all those threads are getting everywhere. And then once it's tacked up, after about a minute or two, I'll do my last installation. I'll kind of just pop it right on there, and now it should be secure in place. You should have it on there, and you shouldn't lose it. Now if you need to get it off, it still should pry off because I don't have so much. An alternate method, there's all different ways to do this, but an alternate method might be just to run a little bit of tape along here, like right along these 2 seams right here, and that'll keep it in place. And then if you ever have to remove it, you can just pull the tape off. Now that we got the landing gear in place, I usually like to just kind of throw it on the table or my workshop here and kind of see if we got everything kind of where it needs to be, and just kind of see how it looks. It seems to fit real nice on the gear. It sits nice. It's a nice stance. Now we're going to get the tail on the airplane. So we're going to kind of flip-flop the ERNT stand around, and we're going to kind of get this thing set up to get the tail on. Now I did run some zap glue, okay, right along the edge here, because as we talked about, mine was kind of coming off there. But once you kind of lay this down, I used this fine dropper here to get the glue way back in there, and then I glued it and put it down, and then I wicked it kind of all around here just so it got saturated. So yours probably won't have this problem, but you know, if yours is coming off in any way, make sure you kind of get some glue glue up in there. So we're going to do a rough test fit. I did have to take a sanding bar and I did have to sand kind of along this edge here a little bit because it was really, really tight. But once I did that, you can see how nice this whole tail fits into place. And I'll get a little zoom on there so everybody can see kind of how nice that goes on there. And these are pre-slotted, so they actually took the slots and they cut them in here already, so it will accommodate the CA hinges on there already. So just to do sort of a dry test run, test fit, that all goes in place. I'm just kind of lining that up and they all fit right in there. So the first thing we're going to do is glue our horizontal stabilizer in place, which it says to just put this on here and kind of run CA along there, or whatever glue you want to use. Epoxy would work well too. And then we're going to put our rudder on, and using thin CA, we're going to just let the glue wick into there. So that's the general assembly, general construction of this thing and how the tail goes on. And then I actually did find out what that single screw is for, and in fact I'll kind of show you all here on the bottom. You know, the next step of that is to take this thing, and what that one screw is for is to let this go around. You see that little hole right there? Is put that single hole right through there, and that will lock the tail wheel in with this. Now, it's probably, they probably don't move at exactly the same arc. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So it might be the kind of thing where it needs to be kind of loose or tight, or I'll kind of see after I get it on there, you know, how that is. But that's the general construction of the tail. Now, what I like to do is, you know, instead of gluing, you know, this covering material to the wood, I like to try to glue some wood to wood. So the only difference I'm going to do when installing this is just the way you see this here. I'm going to take a pencil, or you can use, you know, like a fine point Sharpie or something like that. And with the elevator in here, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my pencil kind of right along. Let me see if I can get it on that edge because I can't see it from there. I'm going to run it along this edge here, okay? And I'm going to run it along this edge. You need something to kind of mark it with a little bit. And what that's going to do is, by marking it that way, I'm going to take a look at it so I can see what I'm actually doing. I don't want it to be permanently on there, and that's why I'm using pencil, because it'll come off. And if you use a Sharpie, alcohol will take the Sharpie off of this thing. So, but anyway, just to do a little bit of a line on there, and then I may, just for kicks, do that along the top. The reason I'm doing this is because I like to remove a little bit of, not always, but most of the time, remove some covering material. So what I did was, is you see how this is marked now? I'm going to zoom in so you can see what that looks like. That's all marked there. This is the way we used to build balsa planes in the old days after you covered them. And I marked it right there. You can see those two lines kind of running parallel across there again, same on the other side. Because what I'm going to do is using like a fine hobby knife very carefully, okay, I'm probably going to remove a little bit of the, just from the center, okay? And you have to use a sharp knife, and you don't want to cut into the wood if you do this, okay? I don't want to go right against that line, but I just want to go in this middle section. Remove a little bit of that balsa, okay, in there, and maybe a little bit on this side. But you got to be careful, because also what you have to notice too is that you know, you can see if you push on the material here, you can see that edge comes up pretty close to that. So you don't want to get too close to that pencil line where your covering material kind of comes out. So you just want to cut a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is because if you see the inside of this thing right here, and as I zoom in you guys can check it out, the inside of this is wood. And generally speaking, gluing wood to covering material is not really the greatest way to go, okay? You want to really glue wood to wood, at least a little wood to wood if you can, without disrupting, you know, the covering material, you know, that's on this thing. Because again, if you look at this side, you start running out of space here where if I shine the light through, let me go ahead and get my phone on here so y'all can see kind of what I'm talking about. If I throw my phone light on and I shine this through, let me see if I can show this here. If you see right there, you can see that you don't want to get too close to that line, because then your covering material can kind of come off there. So you want to go really inside that line, and that way when you do this, you're going to be gluing, okay, wood to wood. And that's really what you want. Then you're going to have a real solid bond. Where if you glue wood to the covering material, it could kind of come off. So, and again, that's how we used to sort of do this sort of in the old days when you're building wood airplanes, and it's really, again, it's nothing new. So using a hobby knife, I'm going to very carefully just kind of cut along that line, but on the inside line, and you'll see after I cut through it, because I got to do this off camera. It's kind of hard for me to do that without, you know, messing up, because I need to look really close. You have to do it correctly. Want to use a brand new blade again when you do this, okay, because you don't want to cut into the wood, just lightly enough that you actually just cut into just the material and peel it away. And I'll show you what that looks like. Now, taking a closer look at this, I think I can demonstrate to you guys how this works. It's pretty simple. Again, I ran my knife right along this edge very carefully, and you can see once you do that, notice I'm inside the line, okay, everywhere where I'm doing this, and I'm just very carefully peeling that away. Now, I did the bottom already. I'm going to do the top real quick right on the camera, sort of for everybody, and I hope you'll all be able to sort of see this. Again, you got to know where the material kind of meets the wood, which is right outside of that line. So you definitely want to go inside. You don't need a whole ton of wood, but you just want a little bit exposed to this whole thing. So very carefully, you can see I'm just going inside that line. Just all I'm doing is scoring the surface. Okay, because again, all we want to do is expose a little bit of wood. I'm going to go down here as well. So again, we're bonding, you know, wood to wood. So I'll go on this side again, being pretty conservative, staying inside that line. It does not have to be perfect. I usually do a better job of this when I'm focusing on this and not doing it on camera, but I'm doing this so you guys can really see the actual nitty-gritty of this. So I'm not cutting into the wood again, okay? I'm just cutting into the material itself, the covering material. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go right around the front, okay, where I actually had, let me see if I can get the camera in the middle there, where I actually already kind of did the whole curve. I'm just going to very carefully cut. Again, all I'm doing is just sort of scoring this. I'm going to come from this side. Let me kind of come around. Okay, and as long as you don't cut into the wood, you're not going to weaken this thing any, okay? So, and again, we're way inside that line, you know, sort of anyway. So very carefully just scoring this right along the edge. And that should, I think, pretty much kind of get me to where I want to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this side, just where we started peeling. And we're going to very carefully just peel this away. And now we're going to have a really good, like, wood to wood, you know, wood to wood contact. And I followed, if you notice here on the front, I actually followed, you can see that pencil line actually goes at an angle, okay, because it actually does angle on the airplane itself. So, and you can see here, I'm just going to peel this away, okay, very carefully. And if I need to cut further into that, I will. Like, for example, right here, it didn't kind of cut all the way through because I was very careful. I was not pushing hard. And that's okay, because you don't want to cut into the wood again. So I'm just very carefully doing that. Sorry, I didn't have the camera there. And then let's go, let me continue. I'll just go down this side right here as I peel this on down. And let me see if I can cut that further right there. Again, trying to get it for the camera, on the camera for you guys. Let me grab my knife. If you have to, just get under it with your knife. So I'll lift that up carefully. See if I can get that going. There we go. This takes a little surgical ability, but it's not too hard. So I'm starting that going again, as you all can see. And let me pull that on down. Now I lost my bite on the cut slot there. So let me go cut a little bit harder, just a hair harder, not much. And let me see if I can get that to peel away. Hopefully you guys can still see that I'm running out of, I can't see what I'm doing there. Here, let me pull that out of the way. Again, just trying to see if I'm getting that in there. If only you guys could see how difficult this is with a camera. So hope you guys get something out of this here. This is cool. Let me go this way. Let me cut back down that way. Get that started, and there we go. Sometimes it goes like this. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, sometimes it cuts well, sometimes it doesn't. But I just ran into this one little snag here. Okay, so we get that under there. I'm going to stick my knife under, kind of get that up and out of there. There it is. And hopefully I can grab that. Now, it's not letting me do it. Here, let me grab a little more. Get my knife under there very carefully. The interesting thing is you can see the wood is changing, the wood, the type of wood. That's probably a spar right there. So anyway, all right, so I got the whole thing cut away. You see I'm pulling it away, and my other cut kind of stops right there. So you can see I cut away a fair amount where I'm going to have some wood to wood contact. And this is interesting to note. You can actually see the design of this. This hard piece of wood is running all the way through, kind of right here. So that's actually a spar running through there. It's actually a tougher wood. So now we've got this really nice kind of wood to wood contact, as you can see. And then I'll just walk back here and you guys can see, you know, how that's going to go on. And as I fit this into place, let me see if I can zoom in. We now have wood on wood, and that is good. See, I'm rhyming now too. So you see how that looks? Let me back y'all out here so y'all can see it. Let me zoom on in so y'all can get the gist of that. Now when I throw some glue in here, whether I use epoxy, okay, or whether I use CA, I'm now going to have a wood to wood contact. My covering material is going to be kind of countersunk in there, and it looks really nice on the front end of it. In fact, if I show you here, if I zoom in to right on this tail section, let me zoom in so y'all can see. Right back here, you can see I've got that angle. See, I cut that angle in there. That angle, all that wood is buried underneath there, and what you can do is you can get a lot of glue in there. Okay, so it's gluing again, wood to wood and not wood to covering material. So gluing this in place, and you can probably just wick CA in here, I would imagine at this point, but now we're going to have a really nice contact and it's going to make it super strong. So again, I'll just throw this all in here. I'll put this on the table here. I'm probably going to grab my CA, or you can use epoxy, and I'm just going to go right around the edge, let the glue wick or flow into there, and now we're going to have a really nice wood to wood contact that's going to keep the tail like super strong. Just before gluing your tail in place, the instructions do say to put your main wing spar in, and then check to see that your horizontal stabilizer is level, okay, and parallel with your wing spar, which it looks like it's dead on perfect. Once it's in place, then it's time to go ahead and add glue to your horizontal stabilizer and glue it in place. Now I already did. I just went ahead and put CA right in this gap, and then same underneath. I just went on both sides, you know, made sure it was glued here, and it all wicked in, it all flowed in place nicely, and now the horizontal stabilizer is in place. So now we're going to really do the same thing pretty much with the vertical stabilizer, with the rudder. What we're going to do is take this thing, just line it up in place here, make sure it's in position, make sure we've got good clearance here. As this thing goes in here, we want to make sure that the top and bottom is lined up properly, because this is going to be lined up with this. We also want to make sure we have an acceptable gap right here, so we're not doing any scraping, and we do have to make sure again that this tail wheel lines up with it. Once we have that all in place, we've got our 3 hinges, you know, just right in place there. We're going to take our thin CA and we're going to apply it. I would always use Zap, it really is the best stuff, but you have to use super thin CA. So, and we're going to apply that to those 3 hinges, let it flow, let it wick into place, and then our rudder is going to be completely secure. Now that the rudder CA hinges are glued into place, all we have to do now is to connect the tail wheel to everything, is to sort of turn this over. I'll zoom in so you can see this really nice aluminum arm that they have right here. You can see that lines up with that hole right there. And that's not a bad idea maybe to, once you put that, the hole is already there, but once you make the hole or put the screw in, probably back the screw out and take a little bit of thin CA and just sort of fill the hole with a drop or two, just so it makes the wood a little tougher, because that's probably just balsa wood. Now, it's probably also, if I'm not mistaken, it almost looks like they designed it to tap into the actual horn that's embedded down in there. So, but that's really all you have to do to get this thing in there. Now, it might even help to remove the tail wheel to get that screw to screw in place. But you can see how easy it is. Once you screw this thing all the way down, you now have your tail wheel in sync with your rudder. And it really is a pretty nice mechanism that they've come up with here. Additionally, I removed the 2 screws that were holding this tail wheel bracket in place, and actually this bracket is carbon fiber. It's super lightweight. I thought it was metal at first, but it's actually carbon fiber. And then I took some CA, some Zap, and I filled those 2 holes to let the wood, you know, soak up the glue, so the threads are a lot tougher. I went ahead and let the thing dry, and now when you put these screws back in, you'll have probably a slightly tougher tail wheel, because you know you've got that CA soaked wood. The wood is a lot tougher, the threads are a lot tougher, and therefore we're going to have just an overall, you know, more robust tail wheel altogether. Now, since I'm back here at the tail anyway, it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and put put our ball links on, just kind of snap them in position. We can adjust the length of them later once we get to figure out where exactly they're going to go. These are real nice links. They seem to go on sort of only one way, like one side of them has a larger opening than the other, but they may snap on both ways. I'll have to mess with it, you know, as time goes on. There's a smaller one right here for the elevator, and there is a longer one here for the rudder that snaps on. Now these are pre-positioned in place, so you know that's probably where they intend the throw to be, and we'll just snap them in place, get those things kind of centered up, see which side goes. And I don't know if you can notice that, but one side of the ball is smaller, the opening is smaller than the other side. There's like a wide opening on this side, so I think that's kind of how they were intended to go. And I'll mess with that later once we you know, once we power up the airplane and you know, get the servos neutralized. We'll have a better idea where those go, but for now I just go ahead and pop my links on, and the tail is pretty much ready to go except for the wires. The next step is to get the wings in place. The first thing I did, just like we did with the rudder and elevator, I went ahead and put the rod in place just so it would be a little easier to get on. I may need to adjust it later, but it's easier to kind of snap it on when they're, you know, not attached, when the wings are not attached to the airplane. Next thing I did was I routed this wire, which was kind of sitting in this big open box, into this notch, because that's where the, you know, your ailerons and your wing lights I think are intended to be. And then I removed the nylon wing bolt, so this thing is kind of, you know, just ready to put it in place. So I took the canopy off, as you can see here. I took the top hatch off, and we're just going to go ahead and slide the spar right on in there, which it goes in there real nice and smooth. And then we're going to put our first wing on. Just kind of slide that in place, get that up there. I'll stick these wires through that slot, and we'll go ahead and we'll get this wing in position. It fits beautifully, real nice. A little bit of a gap there, probably could be a little tighter, but you can see how that goes on there, how everything, you know, fits that curve, you know, everything fits into that little angle that's right here. And then we have a little extra space again here for the canopy. Then we're going to take our nylon wing bolt, we're going to put it in there through the inside of this thing, and that's where we tighten it, as y'all can see right in there. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll get the second wing on, pretty much do the same thing. I'll hold this up here, I'll make sure that that's in place where it needs to be, start tightening that a bit, and I'll get the second wing in place. That should be pretty simple. Slide that one on. It's wanting to fall over to the left side now because I've got all that weight over there, so you sort of have to balance it out here a little bit. The wings fit on tight, which is nice. This is the first time I'm putting the wings in their position, so, and it's always nice to have tight wing spars because the plane flexes less, flops around a whole lot less, and when they're nice and tight like this, it's really pretty cool. So I'm going to angle this so y'all can see, you know, what this thing looks like right in here. So I'll zoom in so everybody can check that out. I'll get this a little bit lower. Yeah, that's right. We'll move that there. We'll move this a little farther forward. Actually, I'll just angle this just a little bit, and we'll see. You can see where that second wing bolt goes in. So I'm going to stick that one kind of right in there, and then we'll go ahead and we'll just tighten those up. You just finger tight them, and that's how you get the wings, you know, on and off for transport. It's pretty easy to just kind of screw those in place. Now you can see here the wing bolt fully installed here. The anti-rotation pins are engaged. This thing is nice and tough. I mean, it really is pretty rigid. Then you have, for each wing, you have one light connector to make, okay, for your lights. And I think those are controllable from a switch. So I'll know more when I set the thing up and get it all plugged in. And then there's two aileron wires that you plug into a Y harness. I didn't see a Y harness in here, so I'll either add my own Y harness to this thing, or if I have a separate servo channel on my receiver, which I probably will, I'll probably plug one into the aileron channel, one into another, and just do them via mixing. But otherwise, that's pretty much for getting the wing on. You can see how nicely that all went in place with those two wing bolts. And let's take a quick test fit here and see how our canopy and everything fits in place. There is the top hatch again here, which that's snagging my microphone there. We'll take our top hatch right here and put that in place with its rare earth magnet, really nice tongue and groove in the front. And then we'll try the canopy out and see how that fits in place. And that looks like that slips right between the two of those. So you can see those little extra gaps they left there really help you get the canopy in place. So now it's starting to look like a real airplane. It's starting to look pretty neat. And then let's move on to the next step. The next step is just to get the wing struts in place. You can see I went ahead and I put one side on just to see how it goes in place. And man, they really fit nice, and all you have is just the two struts right here. So we're going to flip this over and do the other side. So let me flip this around and we'll put this in a spot hopefully where everybody will be able to see this really well. Let me raise the table up a little bit so we can get in on there. They did a real nice job with this. It is important to note too when you guys are doing this thing, okay, that there's two lengths of struts, one long, one short, and the long one goes in the back. And then there's also one of these, which I think is actually this end right here. There's one end that has a much larger tab, okay? I'm going to zoom on that if I can. You can see that this part right here has a much larger tab on it. Okay, that's going to be the overlapping part of the tab, okay, where they join right here, okay, and you can see where that one bolt is. The beauty of these is as I take a much closer look at all of this stuff, and as I got the other one in place, these are super nice because, one, they do leave the screws in place for you. Okay, so they're already installed here, here, and here, and they also tap into metal threads. There's a blind nut behind them. I thought that these were going to be like a self-tapping screw, when in reality they are actually machine screws. I got the wrong one there, don't I? So when you pull this out, this is a nice blind nut that comes up from underneath. It's made out of metal. So you've got metal to thread, metal to metal contact on all of these things, which is super nice, just very well engineered. So you probably want to use a little bit of thread lock. Sometimes I'll even use, you know, foam tack for this kind of stuff. So as a little bit of thread lock if you just use a little bit. So whatever you have works, but you know, either blue Loctite. You're also going to have to bend these tabs a little bit. So just to show you how this looks like, you're going to actually put the shorter rod on first, okay? And then your longer tab that we just talked about is sort of the overlapping one that goes over top. So I'm going to take a little bit of this thread lock here, which I actually have already on there. And in fact, they even show it like this in a little bowl. They show thread lock. I just put it down on a little scrap that I had laying around. Just a little scrap of like sticker backing is what it is. And then I'll put this on here, if I can get this done with one hand. I had it on there already and then I removed it. So I'm just going to wipe a little bit of that thread lock, okay, onto the end of the thread. And then I'm going to insert the two of these kind of right in there. And then I'm just going to install that one end in there. So see if I can get that in place, get that locked down, and kind of tap that and get it to fit in there. There we go. And it's threading. And again, the way that I have this is if I zoom in on this to show you all, and I'll go down here, you can see your large tab right here is the overlapping tab. And those are going to bend as you kind of push these down. So as I back out, and I'm not going to tighten those all the way first, you can see I'm going to line the two of these up here first, and let me raise that on up so you can kind of see how I'm going to do that. We're just going to put a little bend in the end of these things, okay? So what I'm going to do is just grab this and just do a little bend, enough that it will sit flush. And you can kind of see that as I get close down in on there. I'll zoom in so y'all can see. I'll get a little closer here. Yeah, it's a good thing I got an electric desk, huh? Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this here. Let me back off. It's probably too low. So you can see I have these here. This one I bent. This one I'm just going to take, put a little bit of it, just a bend in it. It's not hard to do. It's lightweight aluminum, okay? And then we're going to do the same thing with, you know, getting these screws in place. So I'm going to take another screw right here. I'm going to put it on my wrench there real quick. Just put a little thread lock on one. You don't need a whole lot of this stuff, just a little bit. And then let me get that back one on because I can actually see it pretty good right here. And you can even feel the threads. I'll usually reverse my screwdriver a bit till I feel the pop and then the threads are lined. And then you can get that in there. So that's down in place. And then let me get the last screw. And these are real nice machine screws. They have these machine screws that are you know, metric, and they're also, these are a 2mm, actually it's a 3mm metric screw, but it's actually a 2mm socket, if you can see all that. So what I'm gonna do is get a little thread lock on that one too. And I got some on the edge, let me clean that off. And then we'll get that down in place. Let's put that right in there. All right, and that fits snugly in place. So I'm gonna tighten those down pretty good, not too hard, but they are metal to metal, so you're not gonna, you know, strip any wood down in there or anything. And then as I back away here, let me back away, and let's go down just a little bit. I'll go ahead and I'll finish up tightening this one. And you can probably put a more defined bend in this one, but just understand that there is a long one, you know, towards the back. So, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to overlap. So I'm gonna get that tight enough where it's pretty tight in there. And then all we have is our strut, or our kind of intermediate strut that just sort of folds out that way. You can see how that is. I'll zoom in a little more. It's a real nice mechanism that they have here. So, and I think this part is a little bit more probably cosmetic than anything else. You just have to sort of line these up where they go. And once you get them into place, they're good to go. And you want to line them up so they're vertical. Now, to make these a little tougher, for me to sort of speculate a little bit, it may not be a bad idea to wrap a tie wrap around this, or just put a little bit of like maybe strapping tape or just something. I mean, they're okay as is. I don't think there's a lot of load on that, but I'm just, as speculation, it might be good to not actually wrap a black tie wrap around that and make it tough. But again, I haven't flown it yet, so I don't know, you know, if it really needs that kind of thing or not. And again, probably not, but that's really it, folks, for getting the wing struts on. Real simple design. I mean, and it's really nice how they, you know, how they set this up. So it's actually, the construction is super, super simple. So let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the assembly. Now, the last major part of the assembly is getting your wires on your tail that go from your rudder to your elevator to the bottom wheel, back, or the support brace underneath, and then around. So there's 4 wires that are going to be in a diamond shape in the back here, and that gives some structure to the elevator, also some scale appearance to it. Something to note, once you get your wing struts on, okay, it can affect your wings. One wing can be higher or lower, or it can affect those because these are structural. And you'll notice when you put this thing together, the wings actually flex up and down a little bit until you put these struts on, these struts are made of aluminum. So once you put these on there, it's rigid now. So these things are adding structure and can slightly change, you know, one wing, you know, sort of being up or down or whatever. So it's important to line it up, and you see I got it on the camera, you know, just like this so y'all can see it. You want to make sure your wing and your elevator are pretty much parallel to each other. Make sure you didn't do anything funky with the struts. There may be a little bit of a strut adjustment because each of those holes somehow is a little elongated, and that may change when you fly it, but for the most part, you can see mine came out nice and straight, so it's not that big of an issue, but it might be something to check after you get your wing struts on. And I think that's why they changed, or in the instructions anyway, have the cables as the last part. So you get your tail on, glued in place, get your wings and struts on, and then check and make sure that you have a horizontal stabilizer that's parallel with the wing. And this looks pretty good the way it was set up. It looks nice and straight. So from here on out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take these wires out of here, and you can see I think they're pre-cut wires with crimps and everything. So I'm going to take those out. I'm going to dump those in my urge tray while somebody calls me and interrupts my video, and then we're going to go ahead and unwrap these wires and get them set up to install. Now, after getting these 4 wires out of the bag, it's nice to know that they did pre-cut 4 wires the exact same length, and that's cool because when they give you one length, then you got to measure and cut and all that, but they did all the work for us, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to take one of these wires, put my kind of glasses on, and I'm going to take 2 of these little crimps right here. As you can see, I'm just going to grab 2 of those, okay, and I'm going to put them on here. I'm just going to run them kind of through this wire that we have here. And then I'm going to go ahead and install them into here. And one goes through one goes through the other. And you want to be careful because when you do this, you can actually distort you know, the elevator, make one. You don't want to make them too tight because it can raise one elevator up, one side up or the other. So, and you want to put them on in such a way, you know, that you're maintaining that the horizontal stabilizer parallel with the wing. So don't over tighten one side or the other, and keep checking them as you're doing them. So we want to do the top first, and then we want to do the bottom next. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so everybody can kind of see what I'm doing here, and you can see how I looped all that through there. And again, I've already got 2 connectors on here already, so what I'm going to do is bring this right back in. I'm going to loop it into place, stick this sort of in there so y'all can see how I did that. Let me punch that in there. I'll get one in and then I'll show you what it looks like. You can see all I did was just loop it through, okay? And then I'm going to do the same, you know, with the other side. So, and I think it was meant to go like that. Actually, it's kind of funny, they did a funnel end on one side. I think, you know, kind of tapered it so it's a little easier to do. So, and I think what I'm going to do is get all of these installed first, okay? And I don't do a lot of flying wires like this, and these actually do appear to be structural. They're not just cosmetic, because these are real cables, okay? They actually, you know, are twisted up cables. So, so what I'm going to do is probably set up all of these, and clearly they made them a lot longer, you know, than they need to be. So I'm just going to pull them tighter, you know, as I can. And you can see there I got one of them on there. So the wire's sort of tight, but not yanking too hard. And then I'm going to go ahead and put all the others on first and make sure that everything lines up, you know, so our horizontal stabilizer, you know, is lined up real nice with our wing. So we then know that, you know, we're not changing or distorting our elevator. Now, as I'm wiring this up, it's important to note, and you can see here I just rigged one of these up. As I'm doing this, you can see that with these little crimps, you can see that there's one end that's kind of flared out and one end that's just straight. So you can do this however you want, but it seems like it makes the most sense to put the straight ends kind of together in the middle, okay, right here, so that the flared end is at the end. And what that allows you to do is it makes it a little easier to insert the wire, okay, into the flared out or the opened end, and it just makes it a little bit easier to install it that way. Now you can see here I have all the cables installed, the right and the left side on the top and the right and the left side on the bottom. And I have it lined up nicely with the camera because I'm looking at this so you guys can see this really well. Okay, and what I did was without crimping anything yet or clamping anything yet, you can see I lined this all up. Now I had to put a little bit of padding under here to line it up with the camera for everybody. But you can see here when I lift this up, you know, I want to make sure that my horizontal stabilizer is still pretty much parallel with my wing, okay? And we're going to tighten these sort of one at a time, starting with sort of the top, and then once we get the top cable done, then we're going to move on to the bottom cable, crimping sort of one at a time. Now, we don't need these to be super tight, but we don't want them to be super loose either, because they're going to flap around in the wind, okay, if we don't get them straight. So starting with just one of these, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of them pretty tight. And one thing also to note is the bottom cable down here, and I don't want to move the airplane just now, is exactly the way the instructions say to do it. And you can see right here, as you see right here, this is how you're going to crimp these things, okay? And then this is your landing gear tongue, or your landing gear bracket that's made out of carbon fiber, and you can see it here. There's the front screw, which is right here, and there's the rear screw. This is the one we're going to loosen to get those bottom cables through there. And you can see these are already crimped, but the instructions do a really great job of demonstrating like what this is supposed to look like. So right now I have mine set up just like this, minus the crimping that was done, okay? And those are tied in, and we'll look at that later. Those are tied in kind of right underneath here on that last screw. So I'm going to start off the crimping process by taking my pliers here, and I'm going to start off with one of these, and I want to be able to, again, keep sighting your wing and making sure you're tightening your cables, but you're not making them so tight that you're changing, you know, the angle, you know, of your elevators here, okay, with the wing in any way. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one up here, and I want to glance at the instructions while I'm sort of doing this just to see. We want to get these reasonably tight, and I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to clamp this one down with my pliers and get it nice and tight. And what we're going to end up doing too is, you know, cutting off the excess wire, okay, because they gave you quite a bit of excess wire here. So I'm going to clamp that down and get it really well in place so it's not moving, okay? And so there's that one. And then I'm going to pull this one just so it's snug enough, you know, so this is not too tight. And again, so I'm not, you know, distorting my elevator, and I'm kind of angling that a little bit. And you can see how the other one here is kind of loose. This one here is kind of tight, okay? And that's what we want, is we want it to be reasonably tight, but not, you know, again, not ridiculously tight to the point where, you know, we're distorting this thing. So I'm going to get it where I think it's tight, and if I have to, I'm just going to lift this up and keep checking that angle and making sure that that still looks like I got it right and I'm not changing the angle. Nothing's perfect, guys, but you can get it pretty darn close if you kind of follow this well. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one up, get that one clamped, okay, and I'm squeezing on that thing, and there I got it. So that one's secured, it's installed, and you see it's reasonably tight, okay, it's straight, but it's also not loose like this one. I'm going to check again, you know, make sure as I'm looking at this that we got this relatively straight, and you might change the angle a little bit, but yeah, it looks like I didn't do anything, which is fine. That's what you want. You don't want to be changing that. Now I'm going to kind of walk myself over to the other side, and I'm going to clamp this one here down, okay, and we'll get that one in place. And notice again, they did give you plenty of wire, and I'm going to cut those wires off, okay, the extra, when I'm done with all of this. So we got one secured, and I'm going to very carefully just pull this one to get it tight. Okay, I'm going to yank on that just a little bit because I want it to be, again, I want it to be, you know, straight, but not so I'm changing the angle of the wing. Now this is easier said than done, okay, because, you know, you can do this, and you can do this kind of thing and change the angle and kind of screw it up. If it changes a little bit, you're not going to hurt anything, and chances of you changing anything drastic are going to be kind of slim to none. Now as I'm looking at this, I'm going to turn one of these around because you kind of learn as you do. I'm going to flip this end around and put the open end, you know, towards the other direction, just to try something. And the reason for that is, I think, as I'm noticing this, is if you actually put, and now I'm reversing what I just did because I just learned something. As you push this here, if you have the flat end or the straight cut end here, as opposed to the open end here, actually when you hold this tight, it'll tend to stay where you put it, okay, instead of sliding off. So that's just something I just learned by doing this. And then I'm going to lift this up. So I'm going to reverse what I said, is put those on the other way instead. Keep the flat end towards you know, towards the outside. And yeah, that's actually, that looks lined up pretty darn nice, pretty darn parallel. And again, checking that both of these are pretty tight, but not too tight where you're changing anything, okay? And they look pretty good right there. So I'm going to hold this tight, okay, while I know you guys may not be able to see this that well, but sometimes I got to do it that way. So let me get this tight where it needs to be. I'm going to hold that down there, and I'm going to grip this. There we go. All right, that one's clamped. All right, let's see what we got as an end result. It looks like we got this pretty tight, pretty straight, but it's not over tight. Same thing with this one, okay? And then I'm going to lift this up, and it looks like we got it right. Now at this point, once you've done it, you're committed. You're there where you're going to be, okay? But you can still alter the angle a little bit by tightening these bottom ones. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the bottom procedure, do it the same way, and let me see if I can go to the other side now. Let me pull this one tight, and let's do this. I'm going to angle this or bring that up there. And you know what? It does slide. I'm finding that it does slide like that. So I think it's a real good idea actually to flip-flop these. And again, that's something you kind of learn by doing. Even though it threads in better the other way, I'm thinking it's better to have that angled end, or that flat end, okay, towards the outside. And again, I'm just learning that now as I'm doing it because it grips. I've done this a couple times before, and I think it's kind of coming back to memory. But when you have that end like that, I'm going to show that right there. Again, when you have that finished end towards the outside, this thing will actually lock in place a whole lot better. Now I took a second and I went ahead and reversed all of these crimps, okay, so they hold better. Again, that little flat end there seems to bite into the outside of the cable a little better and hold these a little tighter. So I replaced my block under here, so my foam block, so you guys can get a better view. And again, as I'm going to tighten these, I'm constantly checking to see that the parallel, that my horizontal stabilizer is still parallel with my wing, you know, as I'm tightening this. So the first thing I'm going to do here, just like I did on the top side, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to tighten this first crimp, okay, and get it to how I want it to be. get it nice and tight, get one secured, and then I'm going to go to the outside, okay, of the other side. Let me get this straight. I'm going to go to the outside of the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So we're going to save the middle ones towards the end, as you can see here. So just tightening these up, get them as well crimped as I possibly can. Once you get that done, they're really not going to go anywhere. So now, again, continually checking whether or not my horizontal stabilizer is parallel with my wing, and it looks pretty good. And I can see that more pronounced as I get this lifted up and get it closer, and it still looks really, really good. So what I'm going to do is now go to the inside and get these kind of snug tight, pull them a little bit, okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to tighten one of them. Again, I want it to be reasonably, you know, tight, so it's not flapping around, but not so tight where it's going to change, you know, the angle of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers here. I'm going to clamp them this way. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that the way I'm doing it, but that's what we got. I'm going to kind of clamp it down, and that looks pretty good. So it looks like it's nice and tight, but not too tight where it's not too tight where it's distorting anything, but tight enough that hopefully the wind's not going to flap it around too much. And then again, checking to see if it's parallel, and it looks like it's pretty good. And then we're going to take this side. Again, nothing's perfect, guys. If it's a little off, it's not going to be, you know, not going to be the end of the world. But I'm going to pull this one and get this one tight as well. Let me go from here. And it looks pretty good. And always when I do this on camera, it usually ends up not as good as when I did it when it's not on camera. So, but anyway, I want this to be reasonably tight. And this is the last one. Once I tighten this, they're all pretty much in place, and there's not a lot I can do about it at this point. So we're going to get that tight. Everything looks pretty straight right there. Close enough. And I'm going to take it this way. And I'm going to tighten it in a way that you guys can't see me doing it, just because I want to make sure that these are angled in a way that they're not sticking against the wind. I want them kind of streamlined sort of into the wind, so they're crimped this way instead of that way. So, and that's it. They're all crimped and tight. They look pretty nice here. They're tight enough, but not too tight. Again, you don't want to go too crazy on them. I'm going to tighten this screw down. I'm going to take a pair of pliers, cutting pliers. I'm going to cut off the excess wire, and then we are going to be pretty much good to go with the tail on this thing. After tightening the screw on the underside, I noticed that what it did was it actually tightened these wires just a hair more. So right now I got a nice sort of a semi-tight, drum tight like wire set up here now. So they're nice and firm, but they're not too tight where it distorts everything. And I can do sort of one final check, compare my elevator here, okay, horizontal stabilizer, with my wing, and it turns out that it came out really nice. It's pretty darn straight. It's about on the money there. So if you do it that way, you'll be okay. You'll get this thing kind of tightened up, and that's sort of the process you want to do. Now I'm going to take my flush cutting tool here, or just whatever cutter that you happen to have. I'm going to cut off all the spare remaining wires, because you don't need all that excess, because you don't want all that flapping around. Okay, we'll get that done. We'll get this done. I'll leave a little bit hanging out, just a tiny bit. Let me run to this side right there. There we go. We got wires flying everywhere. Get that one. It looks good. Go down to here. Get this one. And that should be about it. So I'm going to just kind of clamp that. There we go. Everything's cut off and nice. I'll show you all just a quick underside shot, so y'all can see how that looks. That looks, as you can tell, it looks exactly pretty much like the way that the book shows it, right under that last screw there. So just to cap it off here, folks, that's pretty much the major assembly, you know, of this entire airplane here. You can see it here on the tabletop. And the next thing is we'll just pop the propeller in place. Installing the propeller is pretty simple. All I'm going to do is remove this little 2mm screw up front, and I believe it's 2mm metric, you know, that uses a 2mm drive as well. So, you know, I'm just taking that thing off of there. This is a really nice finished aluminum spinner, and they did such a nice job. The back plate is kind of ventilated as well, so it's meant to be, you know, super light. So all I'm going to do is just remove all that, get the prop on. And now that I'm putting this on there, it's a good idea to also just sort of recommend to you, anytime you're doing this sort of thing and you're getting your prop on, I am going to take the prop back off, okay, before I power this up, because you don't want the prop spinning around. So I'm just putting it on right now just to sort of, you know, demo getting it in place, and that's pretty much it. Once you get that tight, it's in there. We take our prop and spinner, or spinner here, and we pop that back on. It's a real nice machined fit. I mean, it really is pretty darn slick. We are going to want to put thread lock on this, okay, because we do have, you know, metal going into metal. If this is aluminum, I'd say maybe not, but this part here is actually metal. So we actually have steel going on steel. So since we're doing that, we definitely want to thread lock, you know, this bolt a little bit and get it on there. But that's pretty much it, folks. That's our spinner installed, and that's pretty much the completion of the airplane. Now that the airplane's mostly assembled and I'm putting my receiver set on my battery area, I noticed a few things that I wanted to kind of change a little bit and just show you a little more detail on the setup. I took the cowling off, as you can see here, with the 4 screws on the sides. That is a really good time to take some CA, you know, preferably some Zap, and just put a couple drops in those holes to get those wood threads a little bit tougher. Let the thin CA soak into there. Also, I wanted to show you how this was set up. You guys can see the cowling area here. There is a landing light up front, and they went to the thought to actually put in a connector here so you can actually have this thing, you know, come on and off. So really nice that they did that. There's also another little slot, laser cut slot here, like there is in the back as well, where this is actually designed to sit and everything. So really nice that they thought of that. Also, I found that the speed controller was actually tie wrapped to the top here. It had a zip tie, which was right here, and it was holding the speed controller up, which is okay. It was holding it in place, but I also found that it ran across this area right here, and it was kind of getting in the way of the battery floor. Now the battery may be positioned forward or back, depends on kind of where the CG is going to lie, but I didn't want to have that moving across there. So what I decided to do was actually remove that zip tie and actually zip tie it down to the bottom. Now also, this is an electric airplane, so you know, if you look at this, you have intake cooling here, here for the motor, here for the speed controller, because the speed controller is going to sit here. But I also noticed on the underside of the airplane that there really wasn't an exhaust anywhere. Usually you have air come in through here. There's a hole back here somewhere along the bottom for it to get through. Now the battery is going to be right up front here, so I don't think we need a hole way in the back. And one thing I noticed was down at the bottom here, it appears, and I could be wrong about this, okay, but it does appear, if I zoom in here, and if you look very carefully as I push right here, it looks like they intended for this piece of wood to be cut out. You see the indentation there? As if this was supposed to be, you know, the exhaust cooling, or, you know, cooling hole that they intended to put in, but maybe somebody kind of forgot to cut it out. And as I looked down into here, you can actually see right in here that actually that laser cut, it looks like they had a laser cut slot there that they intended for this whole panel to pop out, and that to be some exhaust cooling, because you want to have, you know, airflow coming in and over the motor, going over the battery and everything, and out somewhere. And I think that's what they intended to be. So I'm actually going to cut that out. I'm going to take a hobby knife and I'm going to get in here and I'm going to kind of cut through this and open that up for cooling. The way that I'm going to cut this out is going to be simply just like this, just kind of going down the center of this piece of wood here that, again, I think they intended to pop this out. I'm going to cut it this way, and I'm going to leave some sort of on the back end from the corner. I'm going to cut from the corner. There's a bunch of different ways that you could do this, but I'm going to do it kind of like this. I'm going to go to the middle, and I'm using a pretty sharp knife here kind of as I'm doing this, and I'm going to try to cut this out in such a way that I can actually kind of just continue. I can take a hot knife or take a hot ultracoat or monocoat iron or something, and just kind of still use that and kind of get this all to sort of come out, or kind of just heat it up and get it to stick back on. So what I'm going to do is just sort of peel this away off of this section here. Okay, I'm going to very carefully, without trying to tear it, and let's see if I can get that down there where I need it. Pull that away, because I want to use a hot iron, I guess I should say, to get this thing to kind of fold back. So you can see how I cut this thing very carefully, just lifting up the covering, Get this, because I'm gonna heat it up and fold it back, and once I pop this piece of wood out, I don't know how well this wood for the cooling is here. Now you could just cut right through this, I guess, but I'm gonna try and do it the nice way. We'll see how it happens. This is not critical because I'm only gonna use a little portion of this. So let me see if I can peel that kind of out of the way. Now I normally do a neater job of this, okay, but because I'm doing it on camera, it is kind of harder to make it neater. So I'm going to try to see if I can pop that out, and if I have to, I'm going to go to the inside. Let me flip it around and see if I can get a hobby knife down in there, and I might be able to just cut, and I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm trying to get down in there where I can cut through. Yeah, it looks like I can get through there. I'm going to kind of cut through that area that's holding it. There's a couple spots there, it looks like, that weren't laser cut kind of all the way through. It's going to be real hard for you guys to see that, but I'm going to try to do it here. Let's see if I can cut through that area. So if you look down in there, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see right there, there's a straight line where they did all the laser cutting, but there's some areas that they didn't laser cut all the way through. They're probably meant to be cut and then sort of popped out. So I'm going to go to this side and do it. See if I can get through there carefully. It would have been nicer if they had kind of done that for me, but that's okay. No big deal. I'll get through it. And I'm using a real sharp knife for this, folks, so let's see if that will give me enough that I can pop it out. And I think that might be about it. Let me flip it around, see if I can pop that through. I think a little bit of force will probably get it to go through. Yeah, there we go. And like I said, it's laser cut there, so it should kind of come out of there. If I have to peel a little away here, yeah, there we go. It all just kind of snapped out, and I can probably actually grab that. There we go. So let me grab that and pop that out. Yeah, you see it came out in two pieces. There it is. Yes, I cut myself. That happens with a hobby knife sometimes, especially a sharp one. Got my pinky out of the way. So now what I'll do is I'll take a heat gun and or an iron, and I'll iron this all flat. The next thing I did was took my hobby knife and just sort of cut some sort of radial lines sort of along this curved area here, and then I went ahead and heated up, you know, my little heat irons here, okay, which haven't been used maybe in a decade, so we'll see how this goes. I'm kind of surprised they even work because I haven't really used them in a long time. I may get a little bit of red on this because the last ultra coat or monocoat I used I think was red, because there is some red coming off, so but that's okay. We'll just let it slide, and then I'm just going to heat this up. So we sort of have a nice finished edge. Do you need to do all this? No, not really. But, you know, just to kind of perfect it a little bit, make it a little bit nicer. You could just cut this all out. You know, it's easy enough to do it that way as well. So, but I'm just going to clean it up, make it look super nice. Just because this is one of those wood airplanes that just is pretty darn sweet overall. So it kind of, when you got a nice wood airplane like this, you know, it kind of deserves the attention here. So let me get that all cleaned up. And this is my Top Flight trim iron from a long time ago. I guess I should use the proper terminology, trim iron. So it's good for doing stuff like this. So we'll have that nice and clean. Doesn't that look good? I mean, again, you could just cut it out. It doesn't really matter. It's not that critical, but you know, if you want to go the extra mile, that's what you do. You do it this way. So we get that up there. Then I also have this handy dandy, same thing, but it's sort of curved. So I'm going to use that, and on this curved area, there we go. So we get a little bit more surgical maybe with this. Let's kind of clean that up. Again, I think I used red the last time I used this iron. So, and again, you don't have to go this crazy with it, but sometimes I see an opportunity to kind of make something a little bit better than it was. So we'll get that. I'll grab my flat one again, which is now stuck on something. Let me see if I can get that to kind of go flat on there. And I might use a little CA or a little glue to keep that up there. So anyway, that kind of takes care of that for the most part, or makes it maybe look a little neater. But again, you guys can just cut this out. You know, you don't have to go to all this, but I figured I'd see if I can, you know, do the craft here a little bit better maybe and get that all in place. So yeah, that turned out pretty nice. Let me see if I can get this side. I got a bunch of irons down here I'm reaching around to grab. So let me get that edge there. Sorry you guys can't see that. I'm using the inside edge of this thing, as you can see, to get it kind of glued or adhered to the inside. When you activate this thing, when you get heat on this covering it, it activates the adhesive so it sticks. So let's see if I can get this on the inside here. Get that down there. Yeah, it's a lot. Let me move it up here. Yeah, you can see what I'm doing now. See, I'm just kind of getting it on the inside, top side. And I think that's about it, guys. That's pretty much the cooling hole, you know, kind of cleaned up a little bit, and I can clean up a little better when I'm not, you know, manipulating the camera to show you all this. But again, you could just take a hobby knife, just cut this out, okay, and it'd be really the same kind of thing. So that's just kind of going the extra mile on this thing. Also, what I decided to do with my speed controller was I flipped it. I flip-flopped it. I did a 180, okay, on my speed controller, put front to back, back to front. The reason for that is I'm going to use a tie wrap to tie this down to the bottom, and then using this drill that I have right here, this is kind of giving me an opportunity to get down in here, and I'm going to put the hole kind of right here, and I'll show you where that is. I'm going to very carefully just drill a single hole in the back of this bulkhead that y'all can see here. Just going really slow. I don't have to do anything too crazy with it. I don't want to have wires get all messed up or anything. But what I'm going to do is once that hole is in there, what I now have is a place where I can tie wrap the speed controller front to back right over that hole. And it's going to get, if you can see that, it's going to get optimum cooling. And what I'll do is I'll tie wrap that up and show you what that looks like. You can see here after drilling that hole way in the back, I'm able to suspend the speed controller by tie wrapping it here, putting it right above that hole. I had some extra wires right here that I tie wrapped right here. But now the speed controller is suspended nicely right above that hole. And the thing is it was again originally tie wrapped across here, which was preventing my battery from laying flat and putting my battery shelf liner down there as well. So you can see the speed controller kind of right under here, and you can see that it's tie wrapped. I'll try and light this up. It's tie wrapped now, as you all can see. I'll move a little closer to the camera. It's now tie wrapped to that back wall. Let me see if I can get that kind of in there where y'all can see right there. You can see that. So that tie wrap is holding the back wires, and it's this front tie wrap here is holding the front wires. And now this thing can be nicely suspended kind of right above this hole, and it's not going to move anywhere. Before, it was attached just here to the bottom with one tie wrap, and it was kind of flopping around. But now we got great cooling. We got it positioned in a perfect place. And you know, we have, again, very nice cooling all the way around for it. And now we don't. Now we can get our battery in all the way. So what I'm going to do from here on out is like I normally do. I took my shelf liner here with sticky, you know, double-sided Scotch tape is all you got to use. And I'm going to take that, kind of lay that right down here, and I'll have my antenna all set up there. And then I'm going to push that down flat on there. Let me see if I can get that to lay down where I want it. I picked up a screw hitchhiker. I picked up a couple of screw hitchhikers, didn't I? So let me get those all down there. I'm going to put this right down where it's supposed to be. So I can still see that right between the strap slot areas, as you guys can see. Again, this is my thing. You guys use Velcro if you like it, and Velcro works really great. I just don't, you know, I don't like Velcro, as you guys know. I prefer it not to use it. Some applications you absolutely positively have to use it. So, but I'm going to make sure this is down tight. Get it into place. It looks pretty good there. Let me move it a little bit farther this way here. And that looks nice and sharp. I do want to make sure the cooling holes that were down in there, you know, stay in there. So we're going to cut those out. Let me make sure, just looking on the underside, there's no wires I'm going to get at here. I just need to double check that, make sure these wires are here, but you just have to be careful cutting around those holes. So again, just taking a hobby knife, this is how I normally do my thing. I'll just put that right in there. Again, no wires below it. I can kind of see through it too. With a super sharp hobby knife there. I'm just going around these. See if I can get that to focus. Cutting around the circle. There we go. And I'm about done. Let me get to the top. And there we go. So we got a circle that we cut out. So the cooling hole remains intact. I'm going to look through here real quick, make sure, yep, there's no wires under there, because you don't want to cut out anything on the other side. It's got to be very careful. But again, I'm just cutting out the existing cooling holes that are in there with a really sharp hobby knife. You have to have a sharp hobby knife to do this. I'm just using the laser cut wood hole as a guide to go around. The knife will kind of go up right against that. And that should be it. So we got that out of there. So those cooling holes are still going to be in place there. I didn't disturb anything. There is a little hole back here. I guess I could duplicate that one if I wanted to. So let's just kind of go through there. Although that one's a tiny hole, it's probably not going to affect anything, but just to stay in suit with everything. So, and that's it. That's our battery tray in there. All I'm going to do now is put this thing really back together. Let me unzoom or kind of pan out a little bit. Y'all can see how this is sitting on there real nicely. So I'll take my cowling, and again, I'm real impressed with how they did this. Just left you with a connector here to get this thing back in place. Again, I CA'd my holes right here. So that's going to give me some really good threads there instead of what was there before. I'm actually going to put this on the other side so this stays in place better. I'm going to pop this notch. You can see what I'm doing here. Just sticking this right in place there. Although I kind of broke the wood there now, so it's really, that notch is not really the best notch now. But anyway, like just to keep it out of the way of the engine, out of the motor, which it is. And I can actually pull it through the back side now to make sure that wire does stay straight and kind of stays out of the way of the motor. And then I can get these all these screws back in place. So, and now with the cowling reinstalled, our spinner back in place, make sure you use thread lock again on that. Using zap glue to reinforce the holes really makes a big difference when you're installing this. These holes will last a lot longer now with some CA in them. We have really great cooling now underneath, and we can see the speed controller right under there getting really great cooling, both intake and out the back. And then you guys can see the final setup of the inside of the airplane. I've got one antenna placed right here, just a regular receiver, nothing stabilized. Another antenna right back there. And then now I have my battery area all set up in such a way that now, without that additional strap, that tie wrap that was running along there to hold the speed controller up and it was flopping around, I now can run a battery floor all the way down, you know, to the very right all the way up to the firewall in there. So, and you can move a battery forward and back. So if you want good stability, run your battery forward. If you want it to be more 3D, now we can run it all the way back, and there's tons of strap slots in here. So the strap, and you can put 2 straps if you need to, you can move them and put them all the way along, you know, these straps. So this is real nice, folks. It's all set up well. I'll go ahead and get, you know, the canopies and everything back on. Canopy will go on in place real nice here. Let me get my glasses off here. This has turned out to be one really nice model to build. I did do a lot of extra things to it, but these are things that you don't really, you know, you don't have to do, but these are just kind of clean up items and sort of polish up items that kind of like I like to do. So now that this airplane is done, it's ready to go. I just need to neutralize the flight controls, you know, get it all bound up, and then also put some stickers on. So let's get the stickers on, and then we'll wrap this whole thing up. Okay, folks, she's all finished here, ready to go out to the field. I did go a little crazy with the stickers on it because the stickers actually applied really nicely to this thing. And since I'm flying it on SPEKTRUM, I'm running this on my NX10. I went ahead and I had a bunch of SPEKTRUM stickers laying around, so I went ahead and did the whole thing up with some of my stickers, SPEKTRUM logos everywhere. You guys can see the lighting package on this. This is really sweet. I usually don't have a ton of sport planes, so you know, I figured let me make this sort of more like a sponsor type airplane. You guys get this. This is an OMP airplane. You guys get it from BUDDYRC. So I'll put those links below where you can pick this up. I found this thing went together really nicely. I got a little detailed in the video, but I wanted to show you guys kind of all the ins and outs of this thing and how it went together. And it went together really easy. I mean, there was some construction to it. You know, the only gluing there is the tail, the horizontal, and the vertical end, and the rest of it is mostly nuts, bolts, screws, and some crimping in the back. But what you end up with is a really lightweight, really nicely engineered airplane. I mean, this stuff coming from OMP and you know, coming from BUDDYRC, it's just super, super nice. So I'll show you the underside here. You guys get an idea what that looks like. The new cooling hole in there is probably going to work out real nice. So that's your option if you want to do it. But it seems like it's, you know, it's something that, you know, will keep your battery, keep your speed controller cool. Now, when it came to the throws on this thing,
They have their arms really way far out, okay, on the servos here. So, but I'm going to leave them as is and go with a really low rate because this plane is intended to be super aerobatic, and you know, also I'm assuming do some 3D stuff with it, even though I'm not really a 3D pilot. But at full rate at 100% travel, you can see how much aileron throw you have. I mean, look at that, it's tremendous at 100%. Same thing with the elevator, lots of travel, a lot of travel with that rudder, so lots of control throw all the way around. The only changes I had to make is I had to remove my elevator horn right here, okay? Just pop it off the spline shaft, remove the single screw, and then just move it one spline to get this kind of lined up. The ailerons, same thing. Both my ailerons were off a little. One was up, one was down. I changed the spline shaft a little bit. The rods are awesome on this thing. It's just that they didn't have a lot of adjustability, kind of just a little bit. And if I zoom in here for everybody, you can kind of see these are really, really nice rods all the way around. Let me lower this a little bit. But the ball links are really small. That's kind of the weird thing about it. The ball links are tiny, okay? And you can get it off with a screwdriver, but my regular ball link tool, you know, really didn't work all that well, you know, with it. So, but lots of travel on this thing. So, I don't know, I may end up going in on some of the horns, you know, where the ball link, you know, lines up, if I can get at it, if the ball link line is on the horn. For regular flying, this might be the kind of thing where you want to go in a few holes. But I won't know that really till I get out to the field. I may just go with a really low rate, okay, and some expo, but I won't know that till I get to the field and really try it out and see what it does. So, but super nice model all the way around. I love the magnetic hatches. They all, you know, they all work real well. And I discovered also that the lights can be switched. You can see right there inside the hatch, I wrapped the wires around here just a little bit around the spar tube there, just to get them just to get it a little more neat and a little more organized in there. But the lighting system does seem to have a switchability to it. In other words, the landing light I think stays on all the time, but the actual wingtip lights, I went and put them on the landing gear channel just because I could. But you can see right here with it all lit up like this. I'm going to grab on this so you guys can see this. I assigned it to a 3-position switch. So when you flip the switch, you can change them to flashing, okay? And it seemed like a 3-position switch works the best, okay? And then when you move it to a different position, it actually will shut off. So by cycling it a few times, and I'm still trying to figure it out, I tried it on a knob, I tried it on the bind switch, but when you press the bind switch, it'll only go steady if you hold it. So go figure. But anyway, you can switch back and forth to steady. You could switch back and forth to flashing if you use like a 3-position switch, and that's just for the wingtip light. So, but anyway, it's pretty neat. You have some switchability with those lights, and overall, folks, awesome airplane coming from BUDDYRC.com. So, you know, check it out there. Again, I'll put links in the description below. More new cool planes coming from BUDDYRC. You know, here probably soon, I would imagine, or they're going to have some new airplanes. We already did videos of the Challenger, okay, on this. So that's an awesome airplane, and I'll put a link to that in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And then the flying demos, when we get this thing out there and fly it, you know, I'll put those flight demos, attach it to this as well in the upper right-hand corner so you can see it. So you can also check them out on the RC Informer YouTube channel. So anyway, again, folks, really nice airplane. I'm super impressed with it. It assembled well. I'm real impressed with the overall fit and finish of everything. Went together nice for a wood airplane. Most of the screws go into metal, not wood. So, and like I said, the wing struts all went into metal. I found that, you know, doing your wires in the back were not hard at all. They pre-cut everything for you, so it made it nice and easy. But anywhere you do find a screw, like on the cowling, or the screw on the underside that goes in there, that goes into just wood, it's not a bad idea to back that out. Soak it with a little bit of Zap CA of some sort, thin, super thin, so the wood absorbs that that glue, and the threads are a lot tougher than they would be, you know, if you just left it as wood, because they can strip over time as you take them in and out. So if you ever have to remove a lot of stuff like the cowling and that kind of stuff, you know, you wear those threads out. So it's good to toughen them up with some glue. But anyway, folks, real impressed. BUDDYRC, BUDDYRC.com. check it out. Super nice airplane to build. Can't wait to get this out to fly it. We'll get it out there soon so you guys can you know, see how it flies. I'm pumped to get it out there. As always, guys, appreciate y'all watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you guys get informed when we put out more content like this. I appreciate y'all watching once again. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time.